When your recently divorced neighbor keeps asking for help with household repairs, you want to be a good neighbor. But when the requests become more personal and the visits last longer, you realize she might need help with more than just fixing things. Welcome to Secret Stories, where real confessions come to life. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to join our community of secret keepers. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of how being a helpful neighbor turned into something I never saw coming. I'm 24, working as a freelance graphic designer from my home office in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Portland. Nothing too exciting, but it pays the bills and gives me the flexibility to work on my own schedule. My life was pretty routine until 3 months ago when Victoria moved into the house next door. She was 47, recently divorced, and clearly overwhelmed by the prospect of managing a house on her own. I first noticed her on a Saturday morning struggling to carry boxes from a moving truck while the movers sat in their cab taking a break. I walked over without thinking twice. "Need some help with those?" She looked up, pushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. She was attractive in that understated way. Minimal makeup, wearing a black skirt and crisp white t-shirt, but there was something about her smile that caught my attention. "I'd really appreciate that," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Victoria." "Ryan, I live next door." We spent the next hour carrying boxes, and I learned the basics: marketing executive, messy divorce, starting over in a new city. She was grateful but not overly talkative, like someone who'd learned to be cautious about accepting help. "Thank you so much," she said as we finished. "I owe you dinner sometime." "Just being neighborly," I replied, but something about the way she said it made me hope she meant it. The first real request came a week later. A knock on my door around 7 p.m. "Ryan, I'm so sorry to bother you, but my garbage disposal is making this horrible grinding noise. Do you know anything about those?" I grabbed my toolbox. "Let's take a look." Her kitchen was half unpacked, boxes stacked on counters, but she'd managed to make it feel lived in. She stood close while I worked, asking questions, handing me tools. The disposal just needed to be reset, a 5-minute fix. "You're a lifesaver," she said, pouring 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted one. I was convinced I'd have to call a plumber. We sat at her kitchen table, talking about the neighborhood, our work, the challenges of settling into a new place. She was easy to talk to, intelligent, with a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. "I feel like I should warn you," she said as I was leaving. "I'm probably going to be asking for help a lot. This house seems determined to fall apart around me." "That's what neighbors are for," I said, meaning it. She wasn't wrong about the house. Over the next few weeks, there was always something: a leaky faucet, a stuck window, help hanging pictures. Each time she'd offer coffee or wine, and we'd end up talking longer than the repair took. I started looking forward to her requests for help. Victoria was different from the women I usually dated. More confident, more direct about what she wanted. She'd had a career, a marriage, experiences I couldn't relate to, but somehow our conversations never felt awkward or forced. "You know," she said one evening after I'd fixed a loose cabinet door, "I'm starting to think you're too good to be true." "What do you mean?" "Young, helpful, skilled with tools, and you actually listen when people talk. Where's the catch?" I laughed. "No catch. I was just raised right, I guess." She studied me for a moment. "Your parents did a good job." There was something in the way she said it that made me think she wasn't just talking about my helpfulness. The turning point came on a rainy Thursday evening. She called around 8 p.m. sounding frustrated. "Ryan, I hate to ask, but my bedroom ceiling is leaking. There's water dripping onto my bed, and I have no idea what to do." I grabbed a flashlight and headed over. The leak was coming from a loose shingle that had shifted in the wind. Easy enough to fix temporarily, but it meant going up into her attic space. "I'll need to check the roof from inside," I explained. "Make sure there's no other damage." She led me upstairs to her bedroom. It was the first time I'd been in that part of her house. The room was simply decorated but elegant. Dark wood furniture, soft lighting, a queen bed with rumpled sheets where she'd been reading. "The attic access is in the closet," she said, opening the door. I climbed up with my flashlight, found the problem, and made a temporary patch. When I climbed back down, Victoria was sitting on the edge of her bed watching me. "All fixed," I said, brushing dust off my shirt. "Thank you, really. I don't know what I would have done. Probably called a professional and paid 10 times what it was worth, I joked. She smiled, but there was something different in her expression. Ryan, can I ask you something? Sure. Why do you keep helping me? I mean, really, you barely know me. I considered the question. I like helping people, and I like spending time with you. Even though I'm older, divorced, probably more complicated than the women you usually date, the directness of the question surprised me, especially because of those things. She stood up, moving closer. That's a dangerous answer. Why? Because it makes me think things I probably shouldn't be thinking. My heart started racing. What kind of things? Instead of answering, she reached up and touched my face gently. You have dust in your hair. Her touch was soft, but her hand lingered longer than necessary. We were standing close enough that I could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive. Victoria, I said quietly. I know this is complicated, she whispered. I know there's an age difference and we're neighbors, and I just got divorced. But I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop thinking about you either. She kissed me then, soft at first, then with more certainty as I responded. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This is probably a mistake, she said. Probably. I don't want to be your experiment with older women. You're not. This isn't about age, Victoria. It's about you. She studied my face, looking for something. Whatever she found seemed to satisfy her. Stay tonight, she said. Help me with something that doesn't require tools. I stayed. What happened between us was natural, passionate, and completely right. Victoria was confident in a way that was incredibly attractive, experienced without being jaded. She knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to ask for it. Afterward, as we lay together in her bed, she traced patterns on my chest with her finger. I have a confession, she said. What's that? Half of those things I asked you to fix weren't really broken. I laughed. I know. You know? Victoria, you asked me to fix a garbage disposal that just needed to be reset, a cabinet door that wasn't loose, and a window that opened perfectly fine. Either you're the unluckiest homeowner in Portland, or you've been finding excuses to see me. She buried her face in my shoulder, embarrassed. I'm out of practice with all this. I wasn't sure if you were interested or just being polite. I was interested. From the first day, I just didn't think someone like you would be interested in someone like me. Someone like me? Sophisticated, successful, beautiful. You have your life together. I'm still figuring mine out. She propped herself up on her elbow to look at me. Ryan, you're not figuring your life out. You're building something meaningful. You're passionate about your work. You're kind. You're genuine. Do you know how rare that is? Is it? Trust me, it is. Most men I've dated were more interested in what I could do for them than who I was as a person. Their loss. Exactly. The next few months were the happiest I'd ever been. We were careful about appearances, not wanting to fuel neighborhood gossip, but privately we were inseparable. Victoria introduced me to parts of the city I'd never seen, restaurants I'd never tried, cultural events I would have ignored. She challenged me intellectually, supported my business ambitions, and made me feel like the best version of myself. I helped her relax, reminded her that life didn't have to be all work and responsibility. We'd take weekend trips to the coast, spend lazy Sunday mornings in bed, cook elaborate dinners just because we could. The age difference that had once seemed significant became irrelevant. We connected on a level that had nothing to do with years and everything to do with compatibility. You know, I told her one evening as we watched the sunset from her back porch, I never expected to find something like this next door. Neither did I, but sometimes the best things happen when you're not looking for them. Any regrets? About us? Never. About some of the judgmental looks we get sometimes, but then I look at you and remember that some people are worth ignoring the whispers for. 8 months later, I moved in with her. A year after that, she helped me expand my freelance business into a small agency. We'd built something real together, something that went beyond a helpful neighbor relationship. People still stare sometimes when we're out together. They see the age difference, make assumptions, but we've learned to ignore the whispers, the judgmental looks. You know what I love most about you? She told me recently. What's that? You never made me feel like I was too old, too complicated, too much. You made me feel like I was exactly the right age to fall in love again. You were. You are. So were you. Victoria was right about one thing. Some houses do need a lot of repairs, but what we found together wasn't something that could be fixed with tools or measured in square footage. It was something that could only be measured in moments, in laughter, in trust, in the quiet certainty that we'd found something worth keeping. Sometimes the best relationships start with the simplest gestures: a willingness to help, to be present, to see someone for who they really are rather than what they represent. What began as neighborly kindness became something neither of us expected but both of us needed. Have you ever found love in an unexpected place? Sometimes the most meaningful connections happen right next door. Share your story in the comments below.